Hello girls and boys, welcome back to Read Me a Story. Glad you joined us again. Today I'm going to read a very famous book, The Secret Garden. But before I do that, I want to tell you about my book. I wrote this book. It's called Tips and Tidbits for Parents and Teachers. And it will help your mums and dads to help you at home. And they can get it from amazonbooks.com. It tells them all about my 50 years in the classroom, and I share many helpful hints and ideas with them. Well, The Secret Garden. A long time ago, an author named Frances Hodgson Burnett wrote this book. It's a classic. In fact, it's even a movie. You can download that movie. Now, if you're in grade 3, you can probably read this version, what I'm going to read you today, of The Secret Garden. If you're in grade 5, this is another abridged version of The Secret Garden. And it has a few pictures, and it's not as long as the original book. But this book, I would say if you're over grade 5, you'll enjoy that, and everyone should read this sometimes in their life. All right, so today we're going to start with this one here. We even have illustrations here, and this story has been changed and retold by Susanna Davidson and illustrated by Alan Marks. I think the title of the book is interesting too, The Secret Garden. Doesn't that make you want to read the book? Just the word secret makes us very curious. The last time Mary Lennox saw her parents was in the garden outside their house in India. That night, a terrible fever swept through the house. Mary's mother and father both died. Mary felt as if she were all alone in the world. And then a letter arrived from her uncle, Mr. Craven, inviting her to England to stay. And the letter said, "Dear Mary, I have made arrangements for you to come to England and live at Misselthwaite Manor. My housekeeper will meet you in London and escort you here. I'm afraid I won't see you for some time, as I have to travel to Europe on business. Yours sincerely, Archibald Craven." I don't like it here, thought Mary, as she crossed the wild, wind-swept moors. She arrived at the house late at night, and her uncle was away, and the housekeeper said that he had left for business, and then she left her alone in a shadowy room. Outside, the wind howled like a lonely person. In the morning, Mary wandered out of the house into a wintry garden, where an old man was digging. "What's behind that wall?" she asked. "Ah," said the gardener, "that is the secret garden. Mr. Craven shut it up when his wife died. Then he buried the key and went away." As he spoke, a robin fluttered up and perched nearby. He cocked his head and looked at Mary. "Will you be friends with me?" she whispered. "You sound just like our Dixon," said the gardener. "He talks to all wild things. Now run along, Missy. I've got work to do." Mary watched that robin fly off and decided to follow him. "Show me the key to the garden," she begged. The robin swooped down and hopped around on the ground. "He's trying to show me something," thought Mary. She scrabbled in the soil and found a rusty key. Mary searched and searched for the door to the garden. Then one day, when the wind came in sweet-scented gusts from the moor, she found it. She put the key in the lock, and the door creaked slowly open. Mary was inside the secret garden. It was a magical, mysterious place. A hazy tangle of rose branches and spiky green shoots thrust up through the wintry ground. Mary spent all morning in the garden, entranced. The shoots looked so crowded, she cleared spaces around them. The robin chirped, as though pleased someone was gardening here at last. Outside, she saw a boy with a fawn by his side. "Are you Dixon?" she asked shyly. He nodded. "I keep secrets all the time," Dixon replied. "Secrets about fox cubs and birds' nests. Aye, I can keep a secret." "Come with me," whispered Mary, and she led him to the secret garden. Dixon looked around as if in a dream. "Oh, I never thought I'd see this place," he murmured. "Help me make it come alive," said Mary. "Yes," whispered Dixon, "we'll make it the prettiest garden in England." The winter passed into spring, and one blustery night Mary couldn't sleep. She was woken by a cry that pierced the wind. She followed it down dark passages until she reached a door with a glimmer of light beneath. And inside the room was a vast carved bed with a boy in the middle of it, sobbing. "Are you a ghost?" whispered Mary. "No," he snapped. "I'm Colin Craven." "Mr. Craven's my uncle," said Mary. "Are we cousins? Why did no one tell me about you?" "I'm not well," Colin replied. "My mother died when I was born, and my father can't bear to look at me." "Just like the secret garden," said Mary. And she told him all about it, the sun and the rain and the buds bursting into flower, while Colin closed his eyes and dreamed of a garden coming alive. Mary raced to Colin's room the next morning. "I've brought a friend to meet you," she said. "Will you take me to the garden?" asked Colin. They rushed down the paths, and Mary flung back the ivy and opened the garden door. Sunshine lit up sprays of flowers, and the air was alive with bird song. "I can feel things growing," gasped Colin. "You can work with us in the garden," said Mary. Colin's pale face grew rosy in the sunlight. "And maybe I'll get well," he whispered. Every day they played and worked in the garden, and every day Colin grew stronger. "If only my father could see me," thought Colin, and he began to wish, "Come home, come home." One night, Colin's father, far away in Italy, had a strange dream. He heard his dead wife calling him home, calling his name. "Where are you?" he pleaded. "In the garden," came the reply. Mr. Craven returned home at once. He rushed to the garden, and as he came down the path, he heard children laughing behind the wall. "How can that be?" he thought. "The garden must be dead. I buried the key." At that moment, Colin and Mary burst out of the garden door. "Colin, gasped his father. "Is that really you?" "I'm better, father. I'm well at last. It was Mary and the garden." "The garden," he murmured, "just like my dream." "It's a magical garden," said Mary. "Come inside and see." And of course, it leaves us to imagine what they did in the garden and what his father, Colin's father, thought of it all. It's a very exciting story, and even this simple version was fun to hear and read. Thanks for joining us, girls and boys. Hope you enjoy all the versions of The Secret Garden, and maybe even the movie. See you next time. Bye-bye.